Jackson also uses a secret room of mirrors to contact spirits. Michael Jackson has admitted that it is in this room that he communes with the spirit of Lee Liberace. Jackson revealed that, quote, "I have my own secret room with a moving wall and mirrors. That's where I talk to Lee. His is the voice I hear in there. I feel his presence so very close to me." Jackson added that Liberace is, quote, "like my guardian angel. He's even given me permission to record his theme song, I'll Be Seeing You." Obviously, Michael Jackson is not in contact with the Satanist Aleister Crowley. Michael Jackson has opened himself up to the demonic spirit world, which is using him, like so many other rock stars, as a tool to damn the souls of men and women. It is from this demonic spirit world that Michael Jackson gets his songs. Jackson admitted, quote, "I wake up from dreams and go, wow, put this down on paper. The whole thing is strange. You hear the words, everything is right there in front of your face, and you say to yourself, I'm sorry, I just didn't write this. It's there already. I feel that somewhere, someplace, it's all been done, and I'm the courier bringing it into the world." It appears that it is these demonic beings that energize Jackson when he hits the stage. Jackson stated, quote, "When I hit the stage, it's all of a sudden a magic from somewhere that comes, and the spirit just hits you, and you lose control of yourself." The song We Are the World included several different artists, with Michael Jackson leading them at the helm. The song was described as being summoned. Let's look at some of the words of that song in light of God's words. "As God has shown us by turning stones to bread, and so we all must lend a helping hand. But Satan tempted Jesus Christ and said, turn these stones to bread. But Jesus answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God." It is interesting that Michael Jackson teamed up with both Paul McCartney of the Beatles and with Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. We have already observed the connection between the Rolling Stones' Satanic Majesty's Request and the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album. We have seen that Sgt. Pepper is a likely reference to Aleister Crowley. Michael Jackson, during his incredible success, donned his own elaborate Sgt. Pepper-like outfit to collect his record-breaking 8 Grammys. Sadly, even as Paul McCartney sang in the song Sgt. Pepper, that it's certainly a thrill, and we'd like to take you home with us. We'd love to take you home. Jackson, the king of pop, used his Peter Pan image to get into the hearts of millions of young children.
The ideas from the songs I get, I've always said that I don't write my own songs because I feel I'm just a source, I'm just a tunnel, a tube through which they come. I feel somewhere in space they've all been written before. I mean, Billie Jean and Beat It and all those songs have been up there somewhere. It just came through to me. That's how I really feel. So even though I did it, I just can't always take credit. It's like any great artist
would acknowledge that the strange powers that he'd wielded over his audiences were occultic powers that he'd received from the spirit world. Elvis, as a child, believed that he was being guided by the voice of his brother Jesse, who had died at birth, but later admitted that he was being used by a hierarchy of spirit beings. His close friend Larry Geller wrote that Elvis believed that he was working under the aegis of these masters, that they had helped him. Elvis admitted, I always felt an unseen hand behind me. I heard that same voice and thought it was my brother. That's what I thought. I heard this guidance, guiding me all my life. That's why I'm here and why I'm doing this. This didn't just happen. This wasn't mere happenstance. Author Gary Herman stated that Elvis, quote, recognized the devil's part in his success. Many people have been deceived into believing that Elvis in some way was a Christian. Elvis's close friend Larry Geller wrote in his book, Elvis, If I Can Dream, that Elvis actually denied that Jesus Christ was the only begotten Son of God. Larry Geller exclaimed, he didn't think that Jesus was the only begotten Son of God. He thought that all people had Christ in them and had the same potential. Elvis's conception of Jesus Christ differed from the Jesus depicted by modern Christianity. Elvis claimed that his mission was to use his name and influence to initiate people into the spiritual world of which he was being used. He claimed that this voice was using him as a channel to reach millions of people through the universal language of music. Elvis almost always had on hand a copy of Blavatsky's Voice of Silence, with which he would indoctrinate his fans by reading from Blavatsky's book on stage, as Larry Geller held it like a script prompter. One of his disciples declared, but Elvis often gets up in his acts during his performances and reads these things to the audience, says Sonny. One night at the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas, he produced Blavatsky's voice and insisted that Don Rickles read passages from it. It was Blavatsky's teachings of the Aryan race that influenced Adolf Hitler and the SS. It was in Blavatsky's publications that the swastika first appeared in published material in Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler was said to have kept a copy of her spirit-channeled book, The Secret Doctrine, at his bedside. Satanist Aleister Crowley boasted that he and Blavatsky were one. Blavatsky stated in The Secret Doctrine that, quote, Satan is the angel who was proud enough to believe himself God, brave enough to buy his independence at the price of eternal suffering and torture. She declared Satan, the serpent of Genesis, is the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. And he who was the first to whisper, in the day you eat thereof you shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil, can only be regarded in the light of a savior. Blavatsky clearly taught that Satan and Lucifer, the tempter, the mind, is, quote, our Redeemer, our intelligent liberator and Savior.
But as long as a man has the strength to dream, he can redeem his soul and fly.
Blavatsky, Crowley, and Anton LaVey, former leader of the Church of Satan, teach the same lie. In the Satanic Bible, LaVey states, say unto thine own heart, I am my own Redeemer. Besides his obsession with sex and drugs and the occult, Elvis was also obsessed with death. Elvis was so obsessed with death that his former disciples admitted that he would take them through graveyards and visit funeral homes as late as 3 a.m. to wander around the slabs looking at all the embalmed bodies. Elvis declared, someday in the near future, we'll see how the so-called ministers of God react as they see their worn-out ways and the whole old age start crumbling. They'll all get theirs. I can't wait till the new age comes. Larry Geller wrote that Elvis believed that there would be changes in the world, specifically changes in people's attitudes toward the things Elvis felt so deeply about. Whatever its source, it is real. The seeds of these new attitudes were sown during the 60s, have taken root over the last 2 decades, and blossomed today.
The cloud of mystique that shadowed the band grew with the news of Jimmy Page's interest in Aleister Crowley, an early 20th century Englishman aligned with black magic and demonology. Page's fascination with Crowley led many to believe he was into black magic himself.
I think he was absolutely fascinated with the man and the knowledge of the will. I don't think, I mean, you know, he owned a lot of manuscripts, and he bought the Inverness Castle that was also Crowley's. And I think with it he had purchased a lot of manuscripts. And at one point he had a bookstore in England, an occult bookstore. And he was really more fascinated by the knowledge of it.
It was a sincere fascination, and I think he took a lot out of it, and I think it came through in his music, a lot of that amazing depth and, you know, mystery and all that came out in his music. He was very interested in those types of things, otherworldly things.
David Bowie has been called by Time magazine the most influential of all rock musicians. This is because David Bowie is considered the greatest trendsetter in the history of rock music. Bowie was the first glitter rocker. He was also the forerunner of punk rock and the first to release disco music. Bowie was also the first artist to announce to the media that he was involved in homosexual practices. David Bowie says when he is in Japan, quote, all those little boys are so cute. I just want to take them up into my room. But few realize that David Bowie's success was a result of his Satanism. Bowie admitted, my overriding interest was in Crowleyism, that whole dark, rather fearsome netherworld of the wrong side of the brain. Bowie declared, quote, rock music has always been the devil's music. You can't convince me that it isn't. Bowie seems to believe that rock music is Satan's vehicle to usher in Crowley's dark satanic age. Bowie declared, quote, I feel that we're only heralding something even darker than ourselves. He said, quote, I believe that rock and roll is dangerous. It could well bring about a very evil feeling in the West. That's where I see it heading, bringing about the dark era. Bowie has also been known to draw satanic pentagrams on his walls and make hexes. In his song Quicksand, David Bowie sings about being closer to the Golden Dawn, an occult organization that Crowley once belonged to, and then he goes on to sing about wearing Crowley's uniform.
I'm closer to the Golden Dawn, immersed in Crowley's uniform of imagery.
Black Sabbath was named after a satanic being that appeared to bass player Geezer Butler after he had already painted his house black and adorned it with upside-down crosses and depictions of Satan. This satanic being that appeared at the foot of Butler's bed is considered the 5th mystical member of Black Sabbath, who gave them the material for their first 3 albums. Ozzy Osbourne has admitted that he thinks that he is a vehicle being used by Satan, declaring, I don't know if I'm a medium for some outside source. Whatever it is, frankly, I hope it's not what I think, Satan.
I was getting into, not practicing, but reading a lot of spiritualism and black magic and white magic and all that kind of